Jakejames Lugo. I'm one of the industry guests this year for Lumicon, but I'm also someone that works in the games industry. I'm a pro. Basically, I've been doing this for about 7 years and change, going on 8. And I've done work for IGN, I've done work for the Coalition, Playboy, Pixelkin, now recently Influencer Update. I'm on YouTube, I'm on all social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, etc. So basically, I love talking about video games. I love interacting about video games. I love the discussion about games. I love writing about it, podcasting, all that different stuff about games. I do, and I try to do it for a living. I try to make it my passion into what my life career's work is. And it's something that, I'm super, super passionate about. I just love it. Welcome. Hey, how's it going? And I figured, doing a panel like this, talk a little bit about it, not only tell you guys my story, but also tell you about how you guys can get into the industry, for your love of games, whether it be games, anime, comics, whatever else. All the different types of stuff that I've had to learn getting involved with video games in the industry could be applied to just about anything. I figured it'd be helpful just kind of give you guys that knowledge, just put it out there so you guys could go out, make dope stuff, show everybody, and talk about amazing things like that. So for me, how it started was that obviously, like most of us here, everybody here plays video games, right? Everybody here is, you guys gotta be louder. I know it's no coffee. You can say yes, you can cheer, you can do whatever.
It's still morning.
It's still morning, more coffee. You gotta get candy like that for Halloween.
Yeah, caffeine.
But for me, it started off, obviously, I played video games when I was like 5 years old or so. First game was Sonic the Hedgehog on the original Sega Genesis, and from there, it was like shooting out like a rocket. And over years, my love and appreciation for games has kind of grown, it's changed. It's not only become an appreciation for time wasting and getting away from schoolwork, it turned into something like, an appreciation for the art form, an appreciation for the medium, something I wanted to just talk about with other people that had similar taste and stuff, or similar appreciation for it. And it was something that at some point after when I was working like a really deadbeat job that I just didn't care about, I was like, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something involving games. And that's how I got into games journalism. Everybody's heard the term gaming journalists, all that stuff, right? You guys would go to like IGN, you guys go to like Polygon and stuff, it's okay. You guys can say it. No judgments here if you go to Kotaku, I promise. Or whatnot. But this is the type of stuff that, I wanted to be involved with. I wanted to go to places like E3. I wanted to go to places like Comic-Con, to PAX, to PSX, to Lumicon, to other conventions down here in Florida, to go cover it and just partake in that excitement and then tell people about it because I think it was just fun to me like that. And to me, I wanted to turn that into something I could do for the rest of my life, which I'm still in my journey doing. It takes time. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of patience, a lot of dedication, and a lot of struggle. Lord only knows how many times I felt like I wasn't going anywhere with it. But it's something that if you're passionate enough, if you're dedicated enough, you could turn into something that's amazing, something that's awesome and stuff. So, any questions so far? Any crazy things? Here's the thing how I'm going to swing the deal, and I keep telling everybody as more people start to come in. For everybody that asks a question, I have a giant box worth of free stuff that's like amazing stuff that I'm just going to give away to you guys. So anybody that's like t-shirts, I even got this game console over here that I figured, it'd be kind of cool to give away.
Atari.
Who doesn't love Atari, right? Atari 2600? No? Everyone's like, yo, this is not a PlayStation. Why you gotta be so cheap? But still, like things like this, I figured like, you know what? Since it's so early in the morning, I might as well give back to you guys on top of talking about something that's like kind of boring, like that. But
That's a good game.
yeah, right. But as far as I guess until anybody has a question. Okay, there you go. Yeah, finally.
Where's a good place to start? Like
YouTube.
YouTube? Like what? Like making your own videos? Or?
Well, it could be anything. It could be podcasts. It could be YouTube. Making videos, vlogs. Playing a game and capturing it, via an Elgato or a capture device or something. Yeah, I would even argue for me, I started off writing, and I feel like as someone that got into the medium, like reading magazines like Game Informer, like PlayStation Magazine, OPM, OXM, stuff like that that's been around throughout the years. I feel like learning how to write not only allows you to convey your thoughts better, but you can translate into video, you can translate into podcasts, you can translate into casual conversation like that when you're talking about whatever it is that you want to talk about, whether it's gaming, anime, comics, etc. I feel like stuff like that, having at least a solid foundation in that will enable you to kind of like flex your creative muscles. So, question, do you want this?
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to be like, no, you want this like small thing? And no, you want that? Yeah.
You want that Atari?
See, it pays to ask stuff, right? So, I guess the other thing I could touch on, how many of you guys frequent IGN? I've been to IGN before, like watch stuff on IGN.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever heard of the wiki guides on there and stuff?
Yeah.
You guys, let me make it even easier for people that don't know what I'm talking about. Do you guys ever go play a game, want to go online, look up where to go, cheat codes, how to do something, stuff like that? Everybody does that a lot? You get a lot? You're gay? Mom's like, yes.
Even daughters like
Even
that.
daughters like, yes. I'm the guy that helps write those guides. I'm the one who actually tries to make stuff like that. I freelance write, wiki guides for them. They're called wiki guides, but they're basically just guides. FAQs stuff. A lot of people like to go to GameFAQs back in the day, and even now to an extent, to find out certain stuff about games, especially when they're brand new. And for IGN specifically, I've done that for a bunch of games. I've done it for games like Fallout 4, Dissidia Final Fantasy NT, Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin. My first one that I did was, anybody own a PS Vita? Anybody cares about PS Vita?
Oh wait, PSP.
PS Vita. Anybody heard of a game called Freedom Wars?
Oh yeah.
I wrote the guide for that on IGN. It was my very first guide. And then I didn't get paid for it. I did it to make a point because I wanted to show them that I wanted to do it. And we'll get into that in a second. But I've done stuff like that. I did stuff like Kingdom on Steam. I've done it for, Detroit Become Human. Anybody play Detroit Become Human?
Oh my god.
I wrote the walkthrough, and I did the video walkthrough for that. I did also, anybody a Harry Potter fan?
Yeah.
You ever heard about that mobile game, Hogwarts Mystery?
Yes!
I wrote the guide for that. So I've done a lot. There's a lot more than I know for. Oh, any wrestling fans? Wrestling fans?
Yeah.
WWE 2K17 and 2K18? That was me. Okay? But I'm not saying that to brag. The point is that, not only to convey to you guys that I love games and I love doing stuff like that, because I try to keep myself with many hats and many hands and many places involved with video games, to be, dynamic, hireable and stuff. But also, just to show you guys that I just love just being a part of that world. I love being a part of all that stuff.
I'm sorry, I have a quick question. When you write guides like that,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe for like collectibles and stuff, how do you troubleshoot where's this thing or where's that
Well,
thing?
that's the funny part about this. You kind of just got to MacGyver and wing it. Because sometimes, in my case, as it's happened many times, especially with like a game like, the perfect example, Detroit Become Human. You don't know exactly what you're getting into. Nobody does. You got the game mad early before anybody else. I got it from, Quantic Dream. They sent me the code for the game on PlayStation 4. It's like, okay, here you go, do your review, do whatever. And now I have to figure it out, to give people the answers on how to play a game.
You have to find out how many times you can kill Connor.
I had to play through multiple times. I had to get the best playthrough to keep people alive. And then when people would die, I would all of a sudden have to like restart from the entire thing. But it's like stuff like that. There's a lot of repetitiveness, a lot of just diving into it, and just making sure things work. You want a shirt?
Sure.
You want a shirt?
Stop.
You like Metal Gear? No? You like Metal Gear here. Take this one since I know you don't like Metal Gear.
Cool. Thank you very much.
So I saw another hand back there in the back.
So do you ever do any collaborative work on this?
Yes, I do. Before we dive into that, I guess I could say a bunch of people I've collaborated with. I've had the privilege and the honor of talking to a lot of major professionals in the games industry, also YouTube personalities. Anybody a fan of Jesse Cox? Anybody know who Jesse Cox is? Anybody know who Justin Wong is? You guys like fighting games? You guys know who the Angry Video Game Nerd is? You guys know who Colin Moriarty is? Anybody? Now we know who's real OG in here. Okay, all those people are different internet celebrities, different personalities involved with the games industry, gaming and stuff like that. I've had the privilege of being able to interact and work with all of them. Not only to have them on my podcast shows, which is on YouTube right now, by the way. Hopefully, by the end of this panel, y'all can subscribe to my YouTube channel, because I'm putting out content. Plug, shameless. But I've been able to do that with a lot of different people. Even Lady Pelvic, me and her did stuff on one of my podcast shows. I've been on her panels and stuff. I've also had the ability to interview different types of voice actors. I have a big thing with voice actors. Anybody know who the voice of Mario is?
Yeah.
Charles Martinet. That dude is a sweetheart. He knows how to talk in the Mario voice in like 7 languages. He is a beast. And I had, been able to interview him, talk to him, chat it up, and say hi. Stuff like that. And then they'll get into other crazier things like, anybody know G4, right? G4TV.com? It's been around. Anybody know a guy named Jeff Keighley, Adam Sessler, Victor Lucas? These are some of my idols, back in the day when G4 was still a thing, watching them on TV. I had the privilege of being able to go to events, work with these people, talk to these people, get advice from them, career advice and stuff like that. Things like that to me are awesome, but it also helps me to kind of stay within this world and actually do something special, relevant, and something that's going to matter to people. Like one of my biggest things that I've always wanted to do was that I wanted to have an impact with my work in gaming that not only changed the perception in the mainstream media, like one of the things I always thought was weird was like everybody knows who MatPat is, right?
Yeah.
MatPat Game Theory and stuff. He had the privilege of going to go meet with the Pope. you know, which is a big. Here's the problem, though. That's an awesome thing. That's a very big thing. But nothing else came out of it, and that bothered me because it's like, yeah, that's awesome. We get to go see the Pope, but that's cool for you. What does that do for the greater gaming culture? What does that do for the greater gaming community? How does that change the perception of people looking at gaming as not only as a great art form, but as something that people don't have to hide? I care about the guy that is like a doctor or something, and he has to hide the fact he has to play World of Warcraft for fear of losing his job. That's a real thing, by the way. That was in a news story. I don't know if you guys ever heard that. Okay, but my point is I care about stuff like that. I want my work to matter, to be looked at as something awesome, be something great. And working with people is usually, you know, how you get there. And actually doing great work with them, even if they're already up there. You want a shirt? Sure. Come get a shirt. How's I don't know if you're a fan of 3KB, but I know it's a little big. Here you go. There you go. The little pajama shirt and stuff. Okay, let's get some more questions out.
So going back to your collab, have you ever collabed someone to get your guys translated in different languages?
I've thought about it, and the thing is, lucky for me as a freelancer, I don't have to do that because I work with IGN US, which is here in North America and California and stuff. But then we have IGN Italia, IGN Japan, IGN Spain, IGN all these other Australia, and usually they have their own teams and their own groups of people and their own staff that does this stuff. IGN is like a franchise, like McDonald's. Like you got McDonald's all around the world, but there's not one headquarters that manages all of them. They just license out the name and stuff like that. Here, I got a cool thing for your outfit. Okay, do you like Final Fantasy?
Yes.
How's a Final Fantasy store for you?
Oh.
I got this at E3, by the way. One of these things. Some of these things I got at like E3 and other events and stuff. Okay, big questions.
When did you start getting in? At what point were you involved in gaming and all that? Like I came in when
like the era?
back in the 80s, early 80s, 1980s.
I was born in '88, so I grew up and lived through the real console wars. Like it was hard out in the streets.
Yeah.
Like people were getting smacked up for playing Super. No, I'm just playing. I had a whole podcast on my YouTube channel talking about this, like where you know the era that was my come up in gaming, and for me it was the '90s. You know, I'm a '90s kid. I'm a millennial. And for me, it was Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, PlayStation, and 64. That era where it was 16-bit, it was the end of the 8-bit era into the 16-bit era, into the 32 and 64-bit era. And for me, gaming really started off as like, again, playing Sonic the Hedgehog, playing platformers, playing Super Mario World. It's one of my most favorite Mario games. Like that's how I associate it and really kind of start to understand my basics of gaming and stuff. And for me, gaming in that era for me, how I really got into this, was really about going to other people's houses and playing stuff that you didn't have. One of the things that we used to do during the real console wars was that you would get a system, like I had a Sega Genesis, I would get a bunch of Sega Genesis games, but I had a friend that had Super Nintendo, I had another friend that had a Sega Genesis that had different games than me. I had a friend that eventually got a PlayStation 1 and we like raided his house to go play PlayStation 1 games, and then so on and so forth. All throughout most of the time that when I lived back in New York and stuff. And you know, that stuff, that's like kind of like how I kind of just dived into this stuff. And I discovered it myself. I didn't really get it from anybody else, which was also funny. It was kind of like a happenstance, like a happy accident and stuff. Here, for you, Mom, I think I could give you, to put your kid in check. I mean, what, you want to beat him over the head?
I was going to say, do you still have a Metal Gear Solid t-shirt?
Oh, of course. But this is good Metal Gear. Like, this isn't, this is Kojima Productions Metal Gear. Like, hey, show him, it's okay, you can show the crowd, look at that. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, yeah. Big Mama coming through.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so, let me get a couple more questions, one more.
Have you ever voiced actor for any of the games that you've
No,
done?
I have not. I have not voice acted. I've heard of people wanting to do that and wanting to like get involved with it besides being press or PR and
Yeah,
stuff.
because I know that some people do.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine, her name's Alana Pierce. She actually started doing that now. She went to IGN, she's at Funhouse now. She's doing stuff like that. A lot of people start getting into different things. Naomi Kyle did that, and I think also Jessica Chobot was in Mass Effect. If you guys remember Mass Effect 3, she was actually an NPC that they modeled her out, and she put in and she did all that stuff and whatnot. So, how would you like a poster? Are you a Zelda fan?
Yes.
Okay, hold on. Bear with me here. I feel like I'm Santa Claus on Halloween. No peeking. I'm gonna put this out at random, so bear with me. So before I get to more questions, I want to kind of switch gears and switch topics. How does Twilight Princess sound?
Yeah.
How's that sound?
That's a nice poster.
Yeah, hey, show everybody. Good. Show everybody. Look at this.
That's a nice poster.
So, there you go.
There we go.
There you go.
There we go.
Yeah, go ahead. You can clap. It's okay. It's early. So, before I get to more questions, I know everybody wants to get stuff. I know everybody wants a question to ask and stuff. Let me also talk about a couple other things. Like, what do I do now now that I'm in gaming, now that I've been at it for almost 7 years and stuff, one of my biggest goals is not only to blow up my social media, blow up my YouTube channel, get more people following my stuff so I can reach out to more people and do more dope stuff, but also to go to more events. Like, I've had the privilege of going to places like E3. To me, E3 is the Super Bowl of the gaming industry. That's our Mecca. That's like making the trek over to Mecca or to Jerusalem for us gamers. And it's like something that at one point, like years ago, I thought it was not possible because I used to watch this on TV. This is like people streaming it on Spike TV, on G4 TV, you know, these stuff that was like, yo, you're on television? This is like a whole another level. And at one point when I went to my first E3, it wasn't my first industry event. My first industry event was a PAX, and that was done through actually writing, through making videos, podcasting constantly, almost every single week, almost nearly every single day. And I did it for a long time. I did it for no pay, too. You know, that's another aspect that I wanted to touch on from earlier, is that sometimes when you're trying to do something, turn your passion into a career, sometimes it takes working and not getting any sort of spoils from it in order to like turn it into something where you can. You know, you have to know your worth. Like sometimes, one of the things that's a big problem in the games industry, especially for media people, is working for free. Because they get this thing called exposure. Everybody heard about exposure. Where are my freelancers in the audience? Anybody freelance artwork and stuff? You know what I'm talking about. Like, you know, sometimes, you know, people will say like, oh, I'll give you exposure. I'll let other people know about your work. And that's good for a time. But then there comes a point, right? That one point where you're like, okay, I need to be compensated for my work. This is my time is valuable. My work is valuable. My work means something. It should mean something that should have value to other people. And that's the same way that I looked at it with my writing, with my video editing, with my podcasting, with my interview skills, with my public speaking like this. You know, stuff like that, that eventually at one point I had to kind of, you know, put my foot down in more than a few cases. There were some instances where relationships, like business relationships, would end because they didn't want to pay me. They wanted to have work done for them, but they didn't want to have people get paid and compensated for the work. They didn't want good work, they just wanted work. And it's like, okay, that's a little annoying stuff. But outside of that, I wanted my work to kind of like, you know, really reach out a lot more people and allow me to go to other places. One of my biggest goals now over the next year, I want to go to Japan, I want to go to Germany, and I want to go to Paris. The reason being, Tokyo Game Show, Gamescom, and Paris Games Week. You know, a lot of these big events and stuff. I had an opportunity one time that I couldn't go because I didn't have a passport to go to Canada, to go to Eidos Montreal. Everybody remembers Shadow of the Tomb Raider, right? Okay. I had an opportunity to go visit the studio in Montreal to go play that game early, and I couldn't go. It's like I wanted to like to be able to put myself in a position where I could be able to make things like that happen. Where it's like when it comes up, I can just go. And just do that. I want to be able to do more and be able to tell people about it more. To be able to, you know, show people on YouTube and other places like, yo, this is an exciting career to be a part of. One of the other things I want to mention, and I'll start taking more questions. Everybody's seen on social media the term game journalist. People have a certain thing about it. Everybody's heard of gamer here, right? As soon as I say that, everybody's like, it's like mood down, right? But one of the things that always bothered me over the last couple of years was that people have a certain preconceived notion about the term games journalist or games media person. You know, gaming media. You know, everybody's caught up on the media. There's a lot of political stuff I won't even get into now, but like a lot of that has bled over from stuff that's happened over the last few years. And one of the things that bothered me was that people would automatically have this preconceived notion about you when you say you're a games journalist. It means that, oh, you're just not trying to talk about games, you're not just trying to do this, you're trying to push an agenda, you're trying to condescend people, which I think is totally wrong. I wrote a whole editorial about it one time for the Coalition, talking about like, yo, like, us in the games media, we're meant to serve the people. We're meant to inform the people. We're meant to let people judge for themselves. That's one of the prime. That's what's called the prime directive of all media and all journalism, is to inform people through facts and other stuff and let them make the judgment, not condescend them and try to instill your judgment into them. And that's what I feel like people get caught up on, and the audience gets tired of that, and they automatically become hostile towards that. So I was like, I'm one of those people out here in the industry that's trying to represent gaming and represent games journalists. I represent my work with dignity, with respect, with a lot of, you know, friendliness, I guess you could say, you know, a lot of stuff that isn't associated with that hostility that I feel like has been injected into gaming like really bad now over the last 3 years, give or take, since this stuff started. You know, it's bled out, not just to games media people, to developers, to PR people, to consumers, to social media, to publishers, companies. Everybody knows CD Projekt Red, right?
Oh yeah.
The Witcher. Everybody's a fan of The Witcher. Cyberpunk 2099. Anybody excited? No? A couple people. One, two. Okay. It's gotten to the point where companies have to be mindful of like what they say and what they speak, because things are just so sensitive, it's so hostile right now. It's not sensitive in the fact that like, you know, you have to cater to everything, but like even just one little thing could be misinterpreted because of all this stuff going on. I was like, you know what, I want to make sure that I make it clear to everybody that the work that I do kind of gets away from that. So that way when people hear me speak about games, they're getting something of value and good food for thought about games through all my work, whether it's reviews or whatever else that I do and stuff. Any questions? Any questions? No? What's up?
So, trying to break in from the YouTube side, you can just throw a video out there and get it in front of people. But when you're trying to break in from the writing side, you're kind of more dependent on getting people to take notice of what you're doing, try to get websites to be willing to post your material. What would you recommend as some tips for people trying to break in from the writing side or specific websites that take open submissions?
That's the funny thing. It's actually both applicable to both sides of the coin. It's not just one or the other, because the same philosophies and approach you could do for YouTube video making or just podcasting audio or writing in general could be applied across the board. And you do need outlets, websites, hosting platforms, social media to get your stuff out there, but you don't necessarily need to depend on one. One of the big things that I find that a lot of YouTubers get caught up on is that they depend too much on YouTube. They immediately, YouTube makes the changes, everybody panics, like, go to DEFCON 5, it's over, it's a wrap. It's always a wrap, every couple of weeks it's a wrap for everybody, but then it's like, oh no, we're all good, false alarm. But my point is that, you can still get your stuff out there without any traditional means or the means that everybody else is doing. I mean, sometimes going to websites that you find on the net and just reaching out to them. Not just, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram stuff, just sending an email. You gotta put yourself out there in order to get the people to notice you. Otherwise, just putting your work out there, if people aren't looking at it, if you don't tell people about it, they're not gonna look at it in the first place. And I had to struggle with that personally for a while because I was doing work for websites like Real Talk Gamer, Shifted to You, which is not around anymore. I even used to freelance for an outlet down here towards South Florida in Miami called Out Loud Multimedia. And they're like, not only were they not paying me or paying me peanuts, but they also weren't telling people about my stuff. I had to go out and do that myself. I had to go out and reach to the coalition or reach out to Playboy, reach out to IGN and be like, hey, I'm out here. I do stuff. I want to get paid too. I want to help you out. I want to do work for you. But all of that came from actually doing stuff and putting myself out there, taking the initiative enough. Not to the point where you're hassling people, throwing your work in your face, hustling, going to people's streams, telling them about your stream and stuff. No, it's all about at least taking enough initiative to be like, hey, I'm here. And then all that, you can take and wing it from there. So do you want a poster?
Sure.
You like Final Fantasy?
Yes.
Now here's the important question. Do you like Final Fantasy VIII?
It's decent. Come on. Okay, that's actually
Good.
pretty
So
sweet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. You can clap. It's okay. Let's take another question.
Okay, so how long do you think it takes you on average to play a game, pull through enough to write a guide on it?
To not write a guide on it.
No, to write.
Oh, to write a guide. It
how long
varies.
does take?
It depends on the game. I've had games again, Fallout 4, which felt like forever. And even though I wasn't just the only person doing it, it was multiple people where I was writing the wiki guide. I was responsible for finding all the Easter eggs, all the vaults, all the different key points of interest on certain locations to put on a map and stuff. That's a lot of work. It doesn't sound like a lot in the grand scheme of Fallout 4, but it's a lot of work that people don't understand. And then there'll be other games which aren't that bad, like the City of Final Fantasy NT. Again, it's just playing it, arcade mode, mapping all the stuff for the characters, doing a couple videos here and there, and it'll be a lot less, but it's still work. But it varies from platform to platform, or at least game to game, or whatever it is I'm playing, or whatever it is I'm needed at the time. Well, obviously, I want to play games and not have to write the guide. That'd be great. And I could just do reviews. I love writing reviews because I could just sit there for however long I need, play the game, and then formulate my thoughts and put it together and actually put it in video format, put it in written format and stuff. But even when I have to write guides and stuff, I still find it fun because at least I'm still getting into the nitty and gritty of the game itself and just putting it out there. But there's never really a set time frame. What I do try though is try to put my own little personal limit and goals. I try sometimes do what I can to knock it out in a week or two. That's my own personal thing. That's not for everybody because sometimes I'll be playing games for 12 plus hours straight, sitting in front of my TV, not in one spot, but moving around and stuff, for 12 hours just playing this game, just capturing video or marking things down and stuff. But again, it varies overall.
I don't know.
What's up?
After you play a game like that, nitpicking and going through it.
For review or?
For review or for a guide, do you get sick of it? Do you get?
Yeah. Yeah. Real talk. Yes. There are times where I wanted to. Oh my God. Here's a perfect example. There are two games, one game type, but two specific games that made me go through hell when I was writing the game guide. So that was Dark Souls 2: Scholar of the First Sin and Neo. Everybody that's played those games, who's played Bloodborne before in here? Who's played Dark Souls? Who's played Neo? Who's played Lords of the Fallen? Anybody know? Those are all the same type of game. They're all that Souls-style game which is meant to punish you and make you work on the game's time, not your own time. It's like trying to take care of a puppy, but you gotta obey the puppy's rules. It's like the puppy's putting you in check, like from the very get-go. And with me, I had to struggle very hard, especially with Dark Souls, because I had to get a friend of mine to kind of do co-op with me to run through the game. We had to go through the entire game and mark off everything that was different from the original Dark Souls 2. That's in Dark Souls Scholar the first. He was playing every boss, every DLC, exploring every nook and cranny, getting killed by every little annoying thing. Like there was a lot of work in that. I went through hell for about 3 weeks with that, and it was not fun. And I got sick of it. I was done with the Soul series, and then they pulled me right back in again with Neo because they needed somebody to do the actual DLC for Neo because the guy that was supposed to do it bailed on them for the exact same reason. I'm like, but I got it done, and that one I didn't need help with. I actually took my time and actually struggled and hauled right through it, but it was still enough to like really kind of deal with it. You want a poster?
Yeah.
Want a poster? I'll give you a poster. You like Nintendo?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love the change in tone that keeps happening.
Yes.
What's up, Mac? What's up?
When you say you like write a guide and you take a look at all you're looking at everything. Is there like, do you have like a set kind of style? Like you take notes like each time? Or do you
Yeah,
kind
to an
of
extent.
each time?
To an extent, because we have what's called a style guide, you know, for freelancers, where it's like we have to keep everything consistent. You have to like, you know, set everything in a certain format, put pictures a certain way, and stuff like that. But like for me, like when I'm going through the process, sometimes it's like, you know, dealing with like, you know, marking off specific key points of interest, specific things that I know are difficult that stand out to me, or that people are going to want to know. Stuff what's called, you ever heard the phrase SEO friendly? Okay, what that means is basically when you're doing a subject or a piece of content online, and it's something that you know people are going to search a lot for. So it has certain keywords that, like, for example, Easter eggs in Fallout 4, or like, you know, emotes in Fortnite.
The words that they search
Stuff that like people are going to want to search a lot for, that are going to be very popular and trendy and stuff. Things like that, you know, obviously work well with a guide, and it's something that's like really important. You know, depending on what type of content it is. Like for me, some of the biggest ones I usually do is obviously Easter eggs, obviously cheat codes, bosses, how-to guides, you know, things like that. Walkthrough, you know, because that's a big one with almost every game. You have to show everybody the walkthrough and stuff like that. The good ending for like, for example, Detroit Become Human. The good ending, the bad ending, you know, things like that. Variations, how to keep everybody alive. You know, stuff, things like that is what's really you keep in mind. But there, again, it varies again from game to game. So, you want a poster? Yeah, I got another Nintendo poster for you. Now, question, you like Splatoon?
Yeah.
Here's the Splatoon poster, a dope one. Splatoon.
That's awesome.
What game do you enjoy like making a guide for the most?
A guide for the most. Ooh, this is tough. I wrote the guide for Tekken 7. I wrote the guide for Tekken 7 for IGN, and it was cool because I did everything for Tekken 7 at IGN. The what is it? The guide, you know, the videos, the what is it? All the extra stuff, and then I did the preview stuff for Tekken 7 on the Coalition. I got to go to the Bandai Namco headquarters in San Francisco, and I got to meet Katsuhiro Harada. Anybody know who that is?
Yes.
Katsuhiro, for those that don't know, Katsuhiro Harada is the guy who created Tekken. And let me tell you something. This guy is so dope that one of the most dope people I've ever met. He walks in, first off, it's like his choreographed too. We walk into the building, it's Bandai Namco, they got Gundam, they got Tekken, they got Dark Souls, like statues all over the place. Then we see this one little arcade cabinet. It says Tekken 7. It was an imported Tekken 7 arcade cabinet from Japan. Okay, so it was Tekken 7, like Fated Retribution or whatever. But it was saying that. And then there's this dark figure just sitting there right in front of the thing. Like, not even saying anything. So we casually walk over, turns around. It's Katsuhiro Harada, and he's wearing a Pac-Man suit. Now, let me explain this to you. This Pac-Man suit wasn't any normal Pac-Man suit. It was a Pac-Man board. Literally everything was the Pac-Man board. He had the tie that was a Pac-Man board, the shirt was a Pac-Man board, the jacket, the pants, the socks, the shoes. I swear to God, this man probably had the underwear too. Like, and he made it look good. Like, really good. But